Welcome everyone to Opening the Bedroom Doors. This is a place for you to show up, learn and listen about different things that can enhance your sex life, different possibilities that you can explore. My name is Jessie Fresh, and I am a professional sex and intimacy and pleasure coach. And I wanted to be able to provide more learning and availability to for you to explore what's erotically possible. So we have people that are my friends that are sexperts come on and talk about whatever it is that they nerd out on. So today we are talking about enhancing pleasure with your voice. I'm talking into my microphone, and we might do this whole thing ASMR style. Okay, just kidding. I would love that though. Just maybe that's my next interview. But we have Christian with us, and we're going to start by doing a little pleasure first. So if you are able, if you're not driving, if you're just hanging out, if you want to switch your gears and put pleasure first, follow along as I guide us. So this is actually something that I learned from Christian that I love and adore. So close your eyes. And just begin to notice and scan what's going on in your body, how your thoughts and your mind are in this moment. And begin to become aware of the top of your head, your hair, your scalp, your forehead, your ears, your eyebrows, your eyes, your cheeks and jaw, your tongue, your teeth. Just bringing in awareness around these places. You don't necessarily have to change them. Just noticing what's going on there. Now noticing your throat, your neck, the tops of your shoulders, the chest, the arms, the hands and fingers, the belly and ribs, the pelvis, the hips, the entire spine, the thighs, the knees, shins and calves. The ankles, feet and toes. And then I'll add something to this body scan. Or you just ask yourself, what could make this 5% more pleasurable in this moment? That can include a body adjustment, touch, some extra thing to pamper you, a fresh beverage, or anything else that your mind and body desire and crave right now. Then when you feel ready and you've given yourself that 5%, you can open your eyes. Great. We have now transcended. Thank you so much, Christian, for being here. Christian, will you introduce yourself? Wait, actually, I got so high that I need to come back to a couple of things. That's a great place to be.
Yeah.
I will introduce myself a little bit further and then I'll introduce you and then we'll keep going. If
I
I
love
did
it.
not clarify that in the beginning, again, my name is Jessie Fresh. I am a private and group pleasure expert. So I teach group courses, I teach group classes, as well as have a private practice where I am taking people by the hand, virtually or quite literally, to understand the pleasure and the connection that they desire in their relationship to themselves and anyone else that is involved in their life. So that's what I do. And Christian, will you introduce yourself and what you do?
Yeah. My name is Christian Demel. I am a voice and expression expert. I have a background in theater, which we can get more into if it becomes interesting later on. But my journey sort of went from music into theater, into specifically voice and expression work, especially working with singers and speakers, of course, and then also with writing. How are people expressing themselves with the written word, and is that their authentic self? And I would say most recently, the crossover that happens here, and I know Jessie will speak more to how we met, but I am currently certifying to be an erotic blueprint coach. And my friends and I have jokingly started calling me a sexpressionist. So that's where the field is now for me.
Sexpressionist. We're gonna have to take classes just to learn how to say that really fluently and easily.
That's
Sexpression.
right. So it just rolls off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Christian and I know each other because Christian taught for, as an erotic blueprint coach, you have to do certifications and you're offered an annual coach training. And Christian did some vocal training then. And we did this really fun exercise where we're being very expressive and dramatic. And we were saying, "You got any butter? What's in the gutter?" Something like that. And imagine like 200 people on Zoom talking to the little Zoom squares around them and getting really into it. And I told Christian that that's when I had little hearts in my eyes of like, I would like to know more, please. And I was experiencing what I now know is called vocal fry, where I was speaking too much in my life. I was coaching a lot in 2020 and was feeling a lot of pain from my voice because of speaking so much. So Christian helped me understand how to use my breath, how to use my voice more optimally so that I can preserve it. So here we are now. Yeah. Cool. Christian, yeah. Would you would you share with people what your experience is with enhancing pleasure with your voice and what that means to you?
Yeah. That's such a good question. Thanks.
Yeah.
I feel like my experience of folks who are coming to the sex sphere ready to deepen their understanding or their knowledge or their capacity for sensation, for pleasure, for ecstasy, whatever word you want to insert there, is that they were really interested in tips, in tools, in tricks, in techniques that they could use, and that there was this desire for the body to have greater capacity to feel things just in general, right? Like, I want this whole skin sack that I'm in to like do more amazing things. And it's not the sexiest two words I've ever put together, but
I've worn meat suit.
that meat suit, yeah, we want more pleasure in your meat suit for sure. But I think that what is interesting is that the voice is an untapped area of expansion. And often when you go to these workshops, people are encouraging you to sigh. People are maybe encouraging some gentle pleasure noises of like, like it tastes good. And I think those are great techniques and they're important. But mostly my experience of the focus was that we were really just using the voice as a way to not stay shut down. We weren't really saying, how could your voice actually enhance the pleasure of this moment? How can
Yes.
it actually like pour more fuel on the fire of
Oh,
what's happening between you and your partner, or just you with yourself? Yeah,
yeah.
or partners, plural.
I'm having an aha moment from
Break it
that.
down. Tell us.
The aha moment is that it's often that the way that we speak about using the voice is from a place of like fixing something and not necessarily how to go beyond that. So
Well, and so many of us grew up in environments where our first experiences of self-pleasure, for many folks, if you did not have this experience, jealous.
yeah.
But for many of us, it was fast and it was quiet.
Mhm.
And it was extremely quiet in some instances. I've worked with folks who are like, my parents' bed was literally up against the wall on the other side
Mhm.
of my bedroom.
Mhm.
So there's this whole idea of like what has to shut down
Mhm.
in order for me to even be in the act of this self-pleasure.
Yeah.
And then we get into adulthood and perhaps we're watching a lot of porn, or we're just experiencing some porn, or we even have movies where people are faking orgasms, right? Like that's a common comedic trope that likes to show up in movies, right?
Yeah.
And then we have this exaggerated idea of what pleasure sounds should be.
Yeah.
And so then we're like maybe trying to make those so that our partner knows we're feeling
Mhm.
pleasure.
Mhm.
Um, but I think a lot of the workshops, to get back to what you were just saying, so much of the voice work that I experienced in a lot of workshops was just trying to get the on switch
Yeah.
to go up. Like, oh, the voice has been off through all of this. Let's just flick that switch on. And I
Mhm.
think for me, I'm like, okay, now it's on. Can it like actually be a light that's like those LED lights that can be every color you could ever want them to be, as opposed to just
Yeah,
like,
those are awesome.
I make sound, I don't make sound. I make
Yeah.
sound, no. I want it to
Yeah.
be the full spectrum.
Mhm. Often when I ask clients to if they make sound or how they feel about making sound, I'll get looks like this. And then they stop breathing and I'm like, "Wait. Okay, please breathe." Um it's I think puts people into a freeze state a lot of the times. And when you just shared that, my first experience of getting used to my voice was going to yoga classes and possibly doing like kirtan in the beginning where we're singing, or like I had one teacher who was like this very like sensual teacher, and she'd be like encouraging us to like growl and moan and like make audible exhales, because in meditation that was spoken as that's a tool to get out of your head, is to just make sound and to vibrate your whole nervous system. And so that is, I think, when my switch went boop, but only in making sound that was like expressive of pleasure, not actually using my voice to speak about what it is that I wanted. That was like a whole, it's like a circuitry board of
Hmm.
switches that you have to like eventually, if you want to, figure out where the fuck they live in your home and then turn them on for yourself. Which,
Yeah, and I don't know why my brain jumped there, but you were talking about like actually speaking about
mhm,
what you want. I think that's a whole other thing that so often the conversations that was having around that were like clinical, or they
yeah.
were very stuffy.
Mhm,
They didn't feel like sexy conversations where it's like, here's what I want to do with you, here's what I don't want to do with you, but I really want to do that list that I just said. It was like I don't know, it was like making a pro
scripted.
and con list or something,
Yeah.
just very rigid. And I think boundaries should be rigid, and I think we should be able to have clear consensual conversations with folks. But I
Mhm,
think it can all be part of the experience of great bedroom time, great pleasure,
for
great experiences with your partner.
mhm,
um, so yeah, I think cultivating that ability to just sometimes say the words that are
mhm,
going to be on that list of things you want to have done or things you want to do,
mhm.
um, but then to actually make them have the flavor and the excitement of the sexual experience. I think that's
Yeah.
delicious.
I think, oh, that's my next like go-to question is why do we want to use the voice? Why do we want to make sound? Like, what's so great about that? Because I
What's so
think
great
that,
about sound?
yeah, what's so great about sound? I think that especially the people that look at me like that just a ghost came in. Having the conversation to even open up why making sound would enhance their pleasure is like a scary, it often feels like a scary conversation. So will you tell us why it's so freaking awesome?
I will tell you why it's so freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I wear my glasses, like, let me tell you why. I love working with the voice, and folks who have worked with me before, might have heard this spiel, but often when I'm first starting in a group setting, I invite people to think about the things that we know and we commonly refer to about our humanity that are unique to us.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm in a group setting, people like raise their hand, somebody will be like, fingerprints, and I'll be like, very good, fingerprints, good for you. And then someone else will be like, your iris. And I'm like, you're exactly right, your iris. That is unique to you. If we scanned everyone in the world, they would all look different. Yeah, DNA, I'll finally get someone to say DNA. I'm like, you're right, your unique DNA. It's just yours. Good for you. And every so often I'll get someone who will say the voice, and then I get really excited. I'm like, you and me, we're gonna have a chat later because you are onto it. Yeah. But the voice is as unique as your fingerprints. It is as unique as your DNA. And that's not just like the general sound of it. It's actual structure, how it sends you into the world is unique. And so for me, I have had our little arguments with folks who disagree, which I love, but I feel like the voice is the part that we send out into the world that people receive the most, right? Like I could be in a crowded area and not see the person who's speaking, but my ear is still going to pick it up, right?
Yeah.
And or if I don't want to see that person, I'm like, I'm going to look away and not see their eyes, and they're not going to touch me. I won't feel their fingerprints. But if they choose to keep talking, short of like really cramming my ears full of stuff and like la 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 la, I'll probably still hear them. So for me, I just feel like we are constantly, as humans, getting vibrated by the people around us. That's not like an exaggeration. For those of you who don't know the voice or aren't very intimate with it, your voice is literally vibration. It's two little muscles that connect at hundreds of times per second in your larynx here, and out that vibration comes, and then it goes into the ear of the listener, and it's literally vibrating all those little hairs that are inside the ear. So when we make sound, we are, even if there's no words, we are vibrating the people around us. I think vibrating is a sexy word.
Yes,
so I think
vibration.
Already we're in the place of being sensual with our partner simply by speaking to them. I would say that's all the groundwork for the question you for the question you asked. That is like, why is it important? And I think that it's important for us to make sound so that we stay authentic with that person, so that we stay present with them, so that there aren't assumptions made. I think assumptions in the bedroom in particular, not always healthy, not always pleasurable. And so I think getting to take that out of the bedroom and make it concrete, make it consensual, very sexy to me. And when I train singers, we talk a lot about how the voice is it is a kinesthetic experience. I could read you a paragraph right now or blab at you about some voice techniques, but until you do them, they mean nothing because we have to apply them at the kinesthetic level with our bodies. And so I think there's something about putting pleasure on voice that immediately drops folks into their body. And it immediately allows you to presence with yourself. And as I mentioned, to vibrate that presence out to whoever you're with, or to just vibrate it back to yourself.
That's so fun to think of the voice as vibration, and that your little ear hairs are being vibrated as well. And what do we love about, or one aspect of pleasure is vibration. Like when I think of receiving touch that is a little bit more like slappy, it's a vibration that's happening in the tissue. So vibration is just a key ingredient to pleasure, I think, in all different ways.
Yeah.
Cool. Ugh. Sorry, my neighbor put their lawnmower on, so I'm going to close my window, and I got very distracted.
Oh, you're all good. You're all good.
Could you hear the lawnmower?
I could not.
Okay, great. Okay, perfect. When I want to break this down, I want to get even more meta with the voice. For anyone that is, especially those people that have the ghost face when we talk about using their voice, you're not only vibrating, and you're not only being authentic, but it is seduction. It is authentic seduction. Like, I think primally, I think when I read the book, Not Come As You Are, like one of the polyamorous books that tells you why polyamory is so natural for some people is because sound is, wait, I'm getting lost in my thoughts. This book specifically says that, like, when back in the day, like in cave times, we didn't have monogamous partnerships. We had multiple partners, and moaning was the thing that people could hear to express what pleasure was being had, but also to know, like, who was sleeping with who. Does that make sense?
Yes, I
Like
love
an
it.
alarm, like a
I haven't
pleasure
read that,
alarm
but I
going
love it.
off.
Yeah.
So I guess the meta part
Is
that I
that like if the cave is a moaning, don't come a Roman? That doesn't actually rhyme, but it's close. You
yeah
know, like
yeah. Yeah. Oh, yes, it is Sex at Dawn. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, it is the book Sex at Dawn. So making sounds is naturally a part of who we are, and it's a learned habit to be silent or to turn off the voice to create safety. And a lot of people's sexual education is silence, just straight up silence. So
yeah. And in not just our culture, but cultures in general,
yeah.
how we speak is code. How we speak is a learned behavior.
Mm.
The qualities of speech, even if we think about regionalisms across the United States, we might call them accents, but that's a way that that particular region has developed
Mm.
how they speak. And then when someone comes from not that region, immediately they know, you're not from this region,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's a primitive part of our brain that
Mm-hmm.
has speech and its connection to community
Mm-hmm.
very much linked.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the reason that you sparked me about that is that once we get into the bedroom, where for some people, just being nude with that other person, we've already broken some taboos, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, we're going to do the thing that like we don't talk about in society very much and that I don't have very good imagery of, and
Mm-hmm.
there's been all this secret around it, or I'm having it before marriage, and like it's a rebellion of sorts, right? There's all this loaded stuff already when we
Mm-hmm.
come in the bedroom. And then we have all of this programming about how our voice is supposed to sound, what is a pleasant sound and an unpleasant sound, what is an appropriate sound and an inappropriate sound. And so, like you were saying, if you're in the bedroom and like the grunts start coming out, or these words that we're not supposed to say in our society start coming out, that anxiety level goes up. So like you're saying, I think when we start to say to some folks, make sound in the bedroom, that's what triggers. My tribe doesn't say that's what we should do. And I'm just using tribe in the way that social scientists use that, thinking of us all at the beginnings of community, of us being in tribes. But that sense that my community, my tribe is saying that we shouldn't talk about these things. We shouldn't make these sounds. These sounds are ugly. What are my appropriate sounds? And then we get into either no sounds, or for most people, like I said, what they've heard in the exaggerated depictions in porn. So that's all they have. All they know is that like, am I going to be making those strange sounds that I heard in that video? And maybe that's
like,
thrilling.
Inauthentic often
Yeah.
too, of like, whoa, that's not real.
Yeah. Exactly.
Fun fact, my first, like, I was so distracted by watching porn that I could not actually find pleasure from it, because I would be like so investigative of like, they're not really in, this is acting. Like, what the, just my spidey senses would kick in to be like, this is actually not sexy for them, and it's not sexy for me to watch it. So instead, I would look up YouTube videos of moaning, and I would just listen to moaning, and that moaning with my eyes closed would allow all kinds of fantasy to come in, all kinds of, like, even without fantasy, my body, just from hearing the moaning, would start to get excited, which I think is just the coolest thing ever. The coolest.
That's so great. I want everyone to have that experience. Everyone who's listening, go listen to the moaning videos. Find them. Seek them out. Start making them.
Yes.
I think moaning also I'm here for it.
Authentic moaning. We have
authentic moaning.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, when we watch those depictions, and there are some great people and great artists who are starting to make really conscious sexual content for us to see, and really working to educate us on sexual potential for us that has authenticity to it. So I want to celebrate the folks who are doing that work and helping revolutionize what we get to learn from in that visual medium and audio medium. But I think, like you said, we watch and we feel like the act has perhaps some inauthenticity to it. And so then we think that the sound must be inauthentic as well. So like, it's another reason to not do it, to not make that sound. Because we want to be, I think at our core, we want to be fully vulnerable with our partners. We want to be exposed and expressed. But that's scary. It's scary just to like start the unbuttoning. And then when you say, oh, now I'm going to start to like make this sound that is unique to me and only me. It's very much like Ariel. Yeah, right? Like this is my stamp on the world, and I'm going to express things. And if I'm going to express unfettered, if I'm going to let you touch me and bring pleasure to me, and if I just got present with that pleasure and let out whatever sound wanted to come, it's a whole lot of non-control all of a sudden. And so I think there's a part of the brain that when you say that, like, make sound with your pleasure, I think it's like, whoa, well, it's already a little out of my control, and that sounds really out of my control.
Agreed.
So it is a very vulnerable act. And in the world of sort of what we set out to talk about today, I think that vulnerability is sexy. I think that vulnerability enhances the experience in the bedroom. So it's a really delicious risk to take with your partner to start bringing sound in.
And when we speak about it in that way, I just want to give a little bit of context. Making sound can be as simple as your exhale having an open mouth. That can be as simple, and like if you were to just kind of like let out a little bit, it's just making sound on the exhale of just that. That's like the baby step. And then you can continually graduate as you're like, oh, that I didn't die. What else wants to come out of here? How else would I express how good this feels?
Yeah. I'm gonna bounce off that. I have no idea how many of you are at home listening right now, but if you want to just do this with us, we'll just do a little exploration, because I love what you just said, Jessie, about that being sort of the gateway. Like, just get breath moving. That's the gateway.
Just breathe.
So just breathe to start. That's another reason that making sound is valuable, because if you are making sound,
you're breathing.
You have breathed. So I am pleased with that. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Tangent. I don't know why this just popped in, but I think even if you think about the way a typical orgasm, or the way that we usually see an orgasm with ejaculation structured, there's a lot of buildup that involves breath holding. Right? We get that sort of thing going, and then we get to the end where there's this moment, and then usually, especially if we've been watching any of the visuals, we get this right? That's where there's this final release of sound, and I'm like, that could have happened the whole time. You could have given that presence the whole time, but at least once sound began, I know that person's okay, they're breathing. So, but tangent, bouncing back. If folks want to do this with us at home right now, feel free. I'm going to invite everyone. You can breathe in through your nose or your mouth, whatever feels comfortable for you. But I'm just going to invite you to breathe in a way that makes zero sound. And then breathe out, exhale in a way that makes zero sound. And this time, let's purposefully breathe in through the nose in a way that makes zero sound. And out through the mouth in a way that makes zero sound. I just feel like the air's trickling out, sliding out. Sometimes I picture the air almost being like the smoke in Alice in Wonderland from the caterpillar, like it's just sort of hanging as it comes out. We'll take one more breath like that. Now, if you're at home and if you're really breathing and there's no sound being made, it's because the vocal folds are not coming into contact in any way whatsoever. There's space between them. They're living right here. Yeah, there's space between them. When we make that sound that Jessie just spoke about, that sound, they come into light contact with each other. So let's all make that sound together now. Breathe in through the nose. And then just release that H sound. You might feel the air hitting the top of your mouth in a different way. Try one more time. Good. Now, if I bring my folds into a partial contact, I might get a sound that is that vocal fry sound that Jessie talked about earlier. Here's a bit of what it sounds like. Do you hear how it sounds like maybe little air bubbles are popping? There's a lot of science behind what's happening to the vocal folds there, which I will not geek out on with you all right now. But for the sake of simple discussion, we'll say that there's an uneven contact happening with the vocal folds. So try that. Breathing in through the nose silently. And then this little bit of popping air in the vocal fold feeling. And that can be a very sexy sound, like, oh, yeah. Oh, right? Like that has a particular appeal. I will say I'm happy for all the sounds. I love to encourage people to risk letting the vocal folds make full contact as they make pleasure sounds, to let the full vibration of your sound and your voice be present. I think it's powerful. So that ends up sounding like, give it a try if you're somewhere private, or if you're not. Or if you're not, what'd you say?
I love that you look like a cat when you're doing it. Like you're like
meow meow.
Ah.
Yeah, just a little vocal cat.
Okay, I'm ready to do that. Okay.
Very good. Try it, everybody. Breathe in through the nose. Yeah, and you can have a bit of air in that sound as well. You can see it's an instrument for us to play, but that I'd be curious if folks want to chat about it, or we can talk about it. But you can say like what your own experience of those was. Does one feel more dangerous or risky than another? Right? It's great information for you, but I always encourage people to keep looking for how they can have full expression of their voice in the same way that they've come to you or to me looking for full expression of sexuality in their experiences.
I love that. When you were asking in the very beginning to do quiet breath, I felt more anxiety show up. I felt, yeah, like that stifling of breath of like, oh, how can I be silent? And it wasn't a careful in the like exciting way or good way for me. It felt like I was, like nervous, gonna get caught, that feeling of like frozen, in a sense.
If anybody else had that same experience, we're just doing a little workshop all together, folks. If anyone else had that same experience, I encourage you to try it again. And this time, think of breathing through a silent yawn space. And maybe you'll really yawn. Jessie, since I have you and I have access to your voice, does that bring greater freedom, less anxiety, or more for you?
More freedom.
Yeah.
deeper.
That's usually the answer. It's not always the answer. But yeah, there's this different presence. Because most of us walk around breathing so we can make sure we are breathing. So we're like, it's like we need the audio reminder that like I'm still alive, or even breathing through the mouth. You don't need that sound to be breathing. I just want to tell everyone who's out there, you don't need those sounds to be breathing. You can still be breathing without them.
That reminded me of my experience of getting into vocal expression was like first doing it in a group where you can kind of like in a group yoga space and being able to be anonymous in a sense where like if everyone's doing it, I was like, okay, I guess I'll try this. I'll try. And then also recognizing how meditative I could get from that vibration. And then almost selfishly using it during pleasure so that I was in a better space. Like it was like self-care for me to be using my breath in a way and using sound in a way that supported me getting out of my head, me getting more into my body, me being able to relax more. And it did feel vulnerable, but it was more so like, look, I need to do this. Otherwise, like, we're not going to have very much fun together. And so it became just this thing of like, here we are, we're going to do this thing. I'm doing this thing. And you are going to get probably turned on by it anyway. And you'll be reminded to get to breathe through it and make sound as well. Like my permission is your permission. And I found that to be incredibly fun to play with seduction in that way, seducing myself first, and then naturally being able to vibrate people's ear hairs.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's the sexiest part of the body.
Yeah. I love that.
What were you just saying? Made me think of something. I also think part of this idea of bringing sound into the bedroom, it relates to what you were just saying, Jessie, is that so many people, you'll have examples, maybe you want to speak to as well, come in saying they don't know if their partner is receiving pleasure while they are in the act of having sex. They're like, I don't know what he or she likes, or I don't know what they like. I don't know what they enjoy. I think they like it. They're making a sound sometimes, right? But I still don't think they do. So there's a whole discussion that can arise from, we call it a feedback loop, right? Where I'm doing something and you have a response to it, and that gives me information about what to do, to continue or not to continue. Yeah. So I think it can be,
and beyond.
Say that one more time.
It's body language and inaudible language, or what would you call it if it's just sound? You know, like if you're in pain, you're like, ah. And if you're in pleasure, sometimes it sounds like pain. But they all kind of give you these little, your spidey senses can kick in of like, oh, they're enjoying this. Yes, they like this. And this also reminds me of, I have some clients that are really good at faking orgasms, and they mimic the sounds that pleasure are. So we all know, I think we all might know what pleasurable sounds are. So that was a tangent too.
I used to love I still love them, although they're not on like the herbal essence commercials. Do you remember? Right? Like herbal, or even like some of the like Campbell Soup's whole, sorry, I hope I can say trademark brand. Campbell Soup's whole thing was good, right? They were they made the pleasure sound their, what's the word I'm looking for? Tagline or whatever, their hook. So
advertising.
And it's one of the doorways that I will use in for clients sometimes is like, imagine that it's just the taste of delicious food. What does that sound? And I'll have them say, what's a food you love to eat? Now imagine that it's the best version of that food you've ever had. And then to see them shift in body, to see them taste it, to really savor what that is. Now I'm like, I want to invite you to know that as much as you just savored, tomato soup with grilled cheese, you can also savor your own touch and your partner's touch.
Yes. Yeah. That just brings up a great point of that we've spoken about vocal expression in pleasure as a partnered thing, but it is certainly something that is an essential ingredient to great self-pleasure.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Go ahead. No,
Oh,
you go.
when people, my first step is that like when people are not, when they're not used to making sound and they're doing self-pleasure, if they're like, but like someone's gonna hear me, like my roommates are gonna hear me, or like I can't, my kids are gonna hear me. I'll say make sound in your head. Just by making the sound of pleasure in your head, which also like in yoga, we would sometimes play with oming mentally without oming verbally. And I think it's quite as effective. It's as effective because it gives your mind something to do, but it's also that baby step before making more sound. But I do like what you offered as well, like making the H sound on just opening your mouth.
Yeah. And that I'm gonna forget the author. My brain is not always so good for authors, but there's a great book called Sound Medicine, which I probably have handy. It's right here, so let me grab it.
Sound medicine.
Um, Corey Chaudhry, I believe is how she says her last name. Dr. Corey Chaudhry, Sound Medicine. In here, she actually talks in a few places about how when you're doing mantra work or things like that, how it's just as effective, that the vibration of the mantra is still being created. But also from a voice standpoint, she doesn't speak to this in there, but from a voice standpoint, when you think of that sound, your muscles start slight engagement that would be like that sound. So when you say you can start to train yourself by thinking the sound, you're actually 100% right. The muscles start to do light activation in that way. It's the same way where if I invited everyone right now to just think about tensing the bottom of your feet, you might have just the slightest experience that it's happening, even though you haven't actually activated the bottom of the feet, but it's because the brain has sent the signal. And so everything sort of like at least gets to awareness about what might be coming.
Oh, that's so cool. Thank you for sharing that. And,
You're welcome.
and I thought like, oh, you are a sound nerd because you read books about sound.
I do. This book's amazing. I was like, if you're listening, I want to come to India. I want to work with you. Yeah, she's doing really, really remarkable work in terms of how sound can isolate the potential for sound to be able to isolate certain cells within the body. So perhaps we could use sound to kill, cancer cells and not target all the other cells in the way that like radiation does. Separate topic, but anyhow, it's really fascinating what she's doing and the work she's doing to connect her Western medicine background with also her Eastern medicine background. It's just really remarkable.
Oh, you're highlighting why we all enjoy music. Like sound is vocal expression is a part of music. And what I'm going to totally botch this quote, but there's some kind of quote that says like music expresses emotions that words can't.
Yeah.
And that's what I think of when making vocal sound during pleasure. It's like in my life, if I'm not making sound, you can like my partner is fully knowing that they need to check in on me because
that's the warning.
No sound is a signal of like she's all up in here, like what is going on. Yeah. I see someone said sound would be the best medical therapy. Sound healing is profound. If you have not explored sound healing, and before COVID, like I would go to sound workshop or sound healing workshops where you're being vibrated with certain instruments, sometimes in like the coolest with the coolest technology where it's like 360 speakers and you can feel all of your little hairs starting to like tingle from the vibration. So cool. And that reminds me that the voice is doing that too.
That's right. I remember when I was learning Tantra many, many years ago, I would say one of the landmark experiences I had was just speaking to a yoni. The person I was with was like,
tell us more.
Just speak to it, And so it was just a very unique experience that was, you know, it's a highly sensitized area of the body. And so it's a very vulnerable moment to like just be in connection with and to use the voice to send that vibration.
Wait, I think that some people might not know what a yoni is.
The vagina, the vulva, which they are two different things, but whichever word resonates with you most in this moment. Yeah, but the same thing. I mean, if you've never had a partner just whisper over your whole body, or if you've never had a partner just hum or sing over your whole body, or think about a moment if you've had this where your partner, you know, laid their head on your chest and sang, or you hummed while their head was there, and they're like, "Oh my God, your whole chest is vibrating my ear right now." And it's such an intimate experience to be vibrating someone else, much in the same way, you know, that penetration is an intimate experience. To be inside someone else it's very intimate if we let it be.
Yes. When you think like, I always try and think if someone's watching this and maybe they've never really tried it, what advice would you give to someone that's never really explored their voice with pleasure?
I think that just listening to my
I like the
to
check-in, like,
to what thought dropped in. Yeah.
yeah.
I think I would loop back to something you said earlier, Jessie, which was that for you, being in a group setting where there was a bit of anonymity and a bit of safety created by all of us making an agreement to make sound and be a little ridiculous, or perhaps feel ridiculous together, created safety.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I was the total opposite as I wanted to bring voice to my pleasure. I was like, I want no one around. I want to know that the neighbor on the other side of the wall is gone. I had to be, close all the windows, put towels in the cracks of things. Like, I wanted no one else around. I needed to cultivate that with myself and really just be vulnerable with myself first. That for me was the starting place. In either world, no matter which direction you come at it from, my hope for everyone is that they reach a moment where, whether it's been the ridiculous and the communal, or whether it's come from the ridiculous and private, that out of that risk, you get to the moment where you're asking, what sound do I want to make? Right? Not guided by the teacher saying, I use hums a lot. If you just need a doorway in, to your question, Jessie, if you just need a doorway in, start with Campbell soup. Good. Just collect vibration on the lips. It's a nice, quiet sound. No one who wants to be loud is humming at you, I promise. Yeah, like it's not a sound that carries. It is an intimate sound. And it's the creation of it. Let's all just hum right now. Whatever pitch is comfortable for you. Hopefully you start to feel that little buzzing on your lips. You might even feel a little buzzing in your nose. You're getting some body feedback, some biofeedback for yourself. So I really like the hum as a starting place, whether it's with a group or in private, because it's not just about that experience of sound. A vowel, we tend to feel like vowels go out. It feels like it's, I got to get it out there. And for me, a hum, I have permission to just be with myself and to get as real and present and vulnerable with myself and this one little sound. So that if there's a gateway sound that I would invite people to make, it's the hum.
I love that because it feels so safe. And you can take it up however you want. Okay, so that just made me think of all, you're like making all of these different thoughts come in around why people love ASMR. That ASMR is this whispering trend. You can find so many videos on YouTube, and you're supposed to listen to the whispering with headphones that are like left and right earlobes. And the reason why people are fanatical about it is that it gives them tingles as if they're having tiny little orgasms. And so whispering over someone's body is just like such a hot idea. But we talked about why this feels so good to make sound. And I also am like, what about the vagal nerve? And what about the other more like, I guess, physiological parts of the benefits of sound? And
Yeah.
will you explain what the vagal nerve is? Because I'm fairly new to it, but when I have experienced it, I've been like, oh, that's what that is. This feels so good.
Yeah, the vagus nerve is this comprehensive part of the nervous system that connects with many areas of the body. We won't get into a full detailed list, but just know that when we're going to talk about our nervous system and we talk about the vagus nerve, it's like running all down the spine. It's going into the brain. It's having connection around the ribs. It's having connection down through the pelvis. It is a comprehensive nerve, what it's doing. And there are three ways that we have scientifically proven, I didn't do it. There are three ways that others have scientifically proven to stimulate and to, what's the word I want to use? Not work out, but to tone that nerve. And those ways are through breath. The most common way that folks are using right now is Wim Hof. He was really big about like, this is what I can do. This is what we're creating. And he also helped us get to some of the science around the vagus nerve. So really valuable there. Cold is another way to stimulate. That's the word I was looking for, around tone and stimulate.
Yeah.
To stimulate. Cold also does it. And singing, the use of the voice, helps us to regulate and stimulate this nerve. So for those of you who might have grown up in religious backgrounds and had that experience where you're like, oh, I just leave service and we've sung together and I feel calm. There's just this calmness to me. Or if you've sung in a choir, there are other benefits that, you know, we've proven that heartbeats of folks regulate as they're singing together. So there are other things happening. I know, it's beautiful, right?
So beautiful.
But yeah, this making of sound is a way to regulate some of what's happening in your nervous system. Is that helpful?
I'm just gonna make sound instead of talking for the rest of the time.
I love that. I think that would be a fun, like, you know, set the container right, everyone. But you know, for the next hour of pleasure with you, my partner, we can only communicate using, you know, non-verbals or non-word audio communication, you know? Be interesting. You'd certainly develop new language with your partner.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it sounds so fun and playful. So playful. If you are joining us live, if you have any questions that are coming up, please put them into the chat. I see some people saying like, oh my gosh, whispering over another body, yummy. Deep vibration with the voice on the clitoris is wonderful, fun to share with a partner. Love that.
Yeah, or like in the world of just tips and tricks, like you can hum while giving oral sex to folks of all genders. You can hum on parts of the body. That vibration will translate from your lips to those body parts. You can make full voice sound. The impact will vary, but what's great, just like any other sexual act, you can ask your partner, what does this do for you? You know, is this interesting? Can we explore sound? But yeah, humming all over the body, very delicious experience.
I have
A plus, recommend 10 out of 10.
I have a friend that plays the tuba, and he will use his tuba lips while giving oral and use the sound with the vibration, and rave reviews have come from other people's lips from that experience. So fun. Is there anything that you think could create potential turnoff around trying this?
The first thing that drops in is it relates to where we started the discussion in some ways, at least I think where we started the discussion, is we have beliefs about what noises should or should not happen. And so if I'm in there and I have my beliefs that are about, you know, quick and quiet, and that's what I've come into the bedroom with, and you're walking into the bedroom and you're bringing in, like, you know, moaning and long haul and humming and ecstatic noises, grunting, we're immediately going to have this conflict,
Mhm.
right? That's arising because of my programming.
Mhm.
So I think that is the first thing that popped right into my mind. Can you ask the question again, just to like put it
Yeah.
back in my system?
What could create potential turnoffs when trying this?
Yes. There are vocal sounds that humans make that are really valuable in some circumstances that might just be turn off in the bedroom. I'll give you an example of those sounds. We can all make them together.
Yeah.
So in general, a lot of the sounds that folks make don't rely on what we call nasal resonators. There's talk in voice and speech circles about that language, but I'm going to use it for today for simplicity. About what's happening as air travels up through our nose and comes out. I got excited. I just got so excited about air through the nose. There are some sounds that happens naturally with M, N, and NG. We do call those sounds nasal resonators because you've closed off this
Mm.
part, so the air has to go somewhere.
Mhm.
But we can also really talk in that area. We can really put sound there, and it can bring this what we call hypernasality sound to it. This is actually a
Oh my
really
gosh.
it's a really valuable sound in crowded areas because nasality helps us cut through so that the person over there can hear what we're saying. Um, it might not inspire confidence in the bedroom.
Mhm.
It also may. It might be super hot, like someone who's like, I'm gonna make the loudest sounds I can make right now,
Yeah.
and the body's like, well, the loudest sounds I make, that's gonna be higher, and it's gonna have more nasality most likely. So it's yeah, and you were just making some all of those sounds, you
Dolphin
know,
noises.
dolphin noises. Yeah, so there can be turn on around that, but um, some of that again is going to be cultural, right?
Mhm.
Sounds that are
Mhm.
more the French use nasality for some of the sounds that are just part of their language, so
Mhm.
that's going to be a really different experience
Mm.
versus other areas of the world where that isn't a quality of the voice that gets relied on.
Mhm.
um my like smarty answer to your question though is like, I think any sound that is inauthentic is the biggest turnoff in the bedroom.
Yeah.
And so if making sound isn't where you're at yet, chill, stay where you're at, you know,
Yeah.
and then do find a way with your partner to say, separate from when I just want to have sexy time with you in the bedroom and be as we are, I would like to cultivate a capacity
Mhm.
to be vocal with you.
Mhm. Mhm.
Can we have some experiences that we know we might acknowledge together as we start that might feel inauthentic, but
Mhm.
it's because I'm pushing my edges? Will you let me push my edges with you? So I
Mhm.
mean, for me, I'm like, I'm so turned on by you just asking that question, you
Uh-huh.
know. But I think, like other things that I know, Jessie, tools that you have, things we've talked about before, and I've seen in the other videos, there is a moment of saying, I'm not going to get this right the first
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
I'm not. And if you can hold space with me while I don't get it right, wouldn't that be magical for us both? To be
Yep.
in non judgment as
Mhm.
I enhance my erotic capacity and capabilities.
Mhm.
And maybe that first experience evolves and it goes great. But I think having clear containers with each other so that you can share an experience. We talk about this a lot of like, let's go in, let's have a sex lab. There's no judgment about it. Maybe you're going to be clothed and just make
Mhm.
sounds together, just to get
Mhm.
used to making sounds with your partner.
Mm.
Um, I know I'm just sorry, I get all excited about
No,
the
I'm
whys,
so
but it's
excited.
it's
I'm thinking of like food. Like, ooh, if we could have like all the ripe fruit that is in season right now, and we are potentially eating it off of each other and making sound like, yes.
yeah. So I think the thing to do is if it's feeling risky, like I think for some people, sometimes we talk about how kink is connected to taboo. At its core, kink has this element of taboo. For some people, adding voice is actually an expression of kink
Mm,
because it is
yeah,
so outside the box of what is supposed to happen
yeah.
that we have to create containers the same way we would if we were going to have a kink exchange or a kink experience with a partner.
Mm,
Um, So yeah, I think it's good to get clear about what makes you nervous or uncomfortable with it. Get clear about what makes your partner nervous or uncomfortable about it, and
Mhm.
then brainstorm what your doorway in wants to be. If
Mm.
it's let's explore it independently, see what we learn and have a chat. If it's let's explore it together so we have the safety of each other.
Mhm.
It's very very individual.
I so love that. Sound play, just being hilarious and ridiculous to start and break the ice and then make it sexy. So
That's
fun.
great.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Amazing.
that's personality too, right?
Yeah.
Like I have this very earnest personality. So I'm like, I want it to be like, I want to get present with myself. And other people are like, let's make it big. Let's like break the ice in a big way
Yeah.
because anything after that is just going to be so much easier than that first big moment. Totally feel that.
Yeah.
There's no name, but I agree. Facebook user.
Yes. That makes me think of times where there have been plenty of like ecstatic giggles and just like silliness. I think has come from the sound and the like orchestration of sound and touch and making sounds that are like that afterwards you're kind of like, what? Like, excuse, huh? What was that? That you just are all tickled all over that you just end up cry laughing. So I realized that that's my key ingredient for a cry giggle from sex. So great. Well, thank you so much, Christian, for sharing all of your vocal intelligence and expertise
You're
and
welcome.
expression expertise. Will you tell people if they're wanting to work with you, how can they get in contact with you? How could they follow you?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't do much of the social media.
Yeah,
I
good
sort
for
of
you.
like you'll find a couple of accounts, but there's nothing. I'm not posting. I'm not putting gems of wisdom out there. I just learned it wasn't actually the healthiest thing for me, so I stopped doing it. Um, However, if you're having struggles in your world, or if you're not having struggles and you just want to know what more is possible, and this
Mhm.
could be like I'll often say, whether that's in the boardroom, on Broadway, or in the bedroom,
Uh-huh.
like if any of those things are places for you where you're looking to have greater capacity or to fulfill the potential you feel in yourself more, just shoot me an email.
Mhm.
It's NYC, like the city, NYC, and then my last name, which is Demel, D as in dog, UHA, M as in Mary, EL, NYC, Demel at gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're
Yay!
very welcome. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Yes, it's so fun.
Yeah.
I am going to keep the next opening the bedroom doors topic a secret for now. Yeah, just checked in. Yes, gonna keep it a secret, but that is going to be on the 30th of June, and I'll be announcing in here. It's gonna be real juicy. So thank you so much, Christian. Again, thank you for joining. Thank you for sharing. Thanks for making me giggle.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me and letting me nerd out on this thing that I'm really passionate about and the intersection of these aspects of my world. I really appreciate it, and thanks for the folks who commented and who were listening at home or elsewhere.
Yeah. I know that my night is going to be much more filled with humming and moaning from my meal. That's what I'm definitely committing to, or I think it's just infused in me now. So,
Perfect.
okay,
I
bye
wouldn't have it
everyone.
any other way.
We'll see you next time. What did you say?
I said I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
Moan through that meal.
Yes. Yes. Okay, goodbye everybody. See you next time.